Hello, welcome back to the Pedestal Society. My name is Brill. As a wife, stay-at-home mother and wife of 22 years, I want all married Pedestal wives and women in relationships, I want you to come to the front. So come to the front, come to the front. This video is for you. This is the video you're going to want to save and you're going to want to share. Because a lot of times we don't realize what's happening in our relationship is that we are triggering a man's need to protect himself. And when we do that, this means that he is not protecting us. So let's start to the beginning. In the very first years of my marriage, remember, I've been married for 22 years. The first 5 years were very rough. And the reason it was is because of disagreement. And see, the thing is, I didn't know how to handle disagreement in that moment. And even though, yes, I had the sage advice of my grandmother, I was very hard-headed and didn't want to listen. I thought that I knew better. I thought that I was more modern. I thought that her ways were old-fashioned. So I tended to ignore her in the very beginning of my marriage. I didn't go crawling back to her advice until my marriage was on the rocks. And this is what I learned from her. When I realized the way that I spoke to my husband was triggering his need to protect himself, I changed the way I communicate. And so let me give you an example of what that looks like. When I went in, no holds barred, and I was like, it is your fault that we have a situation. You are the problem. See what I did there? I immediately triggered his need to protect himself. Because when you start accusing someone, their shields go up and they figure out, I need to protect myself. She's attacking. And that's what a lot of us are doing to our men, and we don't even realize it. So when you trigger his need to protect himself, you're also triggering the dynamic where he's protecting himself from you and you are protecting yourself alone. And so when you change your language and you stop going with accusatory language, you stop using you and your fault, and you start using we, us, our, which indicates we're both on the same team, you'll see a change in your dynamic with your husband. And another thing, when you're going into these disagreements, because this is the number one question I get as a married woman, how do you handle disagreements? It's never a disagreement, babe. It's never a disagreement between him and I. It's always a way for us to figure out how we're both going to win. I call it a compliment. And we're not compromising, we're complimenting each other, which means when we have a situation come up, we're never looking at it as though he's going to win or I'm going to win. We're always looking at how can we compliment each other? How can we both win? How can we both get what we want? And this way we make sure that I'm not triggering his need to protect himself. Because when we do this, his versus her, and this is the reason why the gender war is very, very problematic. Because as long as there's continuation on social media, it's going to trigger women and men to both try to figure out how to protect themselves. Even though you don't want to hear my feelings on the gender war and where it truly starts and what's really going on. Let's stick to the topic. So when you go in these disagreements, right, and you start accusing him that it's his fault, you are the problem, you immediately trigger him to protect himself. And when you do that, this means you have to protect yourself. Okay, so the first thing you need to change is the we, us, our. Instead of saying, you did this, you can say, we have this problem. What do you think we should do? And it's just that simple. It sounds crazy, right? It sounds like that's never going to work in a million years, but it does work. Because it puts you and him on the same team. And this means you're not triggering his need to protect himself. And you're not triggered to protect yourself. So you're no longer accusing, you're both on the same team, and you're complimenting each other. Because I don't necessarily believe in compromise. I believe in complimenting. This means we go into it trying to figure out, okay, how do we both win? How are we both satisfied? This means neither one of us are triggered to protect ourselves. We're on the same team. We're trying to make sure we're both happy. We're both getting what we want. Stop trying to be right. Stop going in immediately thinking that since it's a disagreement that you must win. When you go in thinking you must win, and the only way for the disagreement to be settled if you win, you're immediately setting yourself up for failure, and he will be triggered to protect himself. Because it's not about winning. It's not about trying to be right. It's about trying to be on the same team to both win, to both get what you desire, to both get what you want. A lot of us don't realize is that when you trigger his need to protect himself, you're also going to have to protect yourself. You're putting him in a position where he's out of alignment in protection and masculine energy. And this is important that we get the communication down. We get the mindset shift needs to happen. So no longer are you going into each and every argument with, I'm going to try to figure out how I win. I only want to get it my way. I must be right. You're going to go in with, okay, how do we both win? How do we both get what we want? And this will, in turn, make sure that he is not triggered to protect himself. Because I want you to think about it like this. If someone was to come up to you, and maybe you're at work, and someone comes up to you and they start accusing you and say, you're the reason why we didn't get the bonus because you were late 3 times a week. Wouldn't it immediately trigger your shields and you need to protect yourself? Maybe you could start coming up with, oh, I'm not the only one. Brad was doing it too. Or Janae was doing it also. And that's what happens in this type of communication. This is the reason why it doesn't work. And we put each other on the need to protect ourselves, and we're not protecting each other. And see, that's the key. That's the key to a healthy, happy marriage is you want to be protecting each other. You always want to make sure you're on the same page. You want to make sure you're a complement of each other, and you're not trying to win. See, this mentality, go in trying to win, it is causing so much issues in marriage. I get so many married women that this is the main focus. How do I win? You win by making sure that he wins. You win by making sure that you're not triggering his need to protect himself. You win by making sure that when you are having conversations or you make that mindset shift, that you're both going to win, that you're going to be a complement of each other instead of a compromise. And this will lead to a healthy, happy relationships. Ladies, married women, women in relationships, go and try it. And you will see a difference in the way that he treats you because you have stopped triggering his need to protect himself. So now what's left? He's going to want to protect you. Now when there's some type of disagreement or you need to communicate about something, he's immediately going to come to your defense. He's going to immediately want to try to figure out how to protect you. He's immediately going to try to figure out how to make you happy because in turn, you're doing the same. And this, ladies and gentlemen, because I know some men do watch my page, this is family. And that is how you have a marriage's longevity. And this is how you're going to be happy overall. And let me know in the comment section if this works for you once you go out here and try it. Stop triggering his need to protect himself and watch him trigger his need to protect you. And I'll see you all on the next one. You all have a wonderful and happy day.